New Year's resolutions. Are they just a waste of time? Can there be something beautiful and spiritual about it? Happy New Year. I am in beautiful Pismo Beach, California. Yes, I'm on the roof of our Airbnb condo. Yes, we have a house sitter living at our house, so don't think you can go rob us. New Year's resolutions. The end of something is always spiritually connected to the idea of the start of something new. And so a new year brings an idea that I can spiritually connect to something new. A wise proverb from the Hebrew sacred text, some wisdom that I'm hanging on to today. It says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing." In a high-control religion like Christianity, we're told that there is a higher being that makes these choices for us, and if we don't follow the exact plan of that higher being, then there's punishment here on earth of a worse life. But I believe we get to connect to a divine goodness and wisdom that says, right now is not a time to mend. Right now is a time to tear things down. And that's just as legitimate a choice. I hear all the time from people, you just got to forget and move on. Like that's the only legitimate choice. But there is a time to say, no, I cannot forgive and forget right now without taking the pain of this situation on myself and blaming myself as I was taught to do as a child. Or there will be people who say, well, just give it to Jesus. As a 6-year-old child, I gave my life to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and every single day cried out, Jesus, save me from what I'm going through as a child that I didn't even understand. I wanted that time to die to come at that moment, and I prayed for it every night, like, Jesus, save me from what I know is a treacherous life, or just get me out of here. Have the rapture come and save me, or just let me die before I wake. I felt terrible for feeling that way, but I didn't realize that it was a legitimate thing to want to die. Yet Jesus never came. He never rectified the situation. He never honored my ask, seek, knock to be saved from this world. And I believe that's because we have the choice of those things. And I say to anyone feeling suicidal, that's not because you're mentally ill and horrible. It's because that is a legitimate choice in a world that is like a building on fire. You can say, I'm going to run through the flames, or I'm going to jump from the highest level of this building. And those of us around you can say, everything in us wants you to stay with us. And we will do everything we can to support you in that. But it's illegitimate for us to say you have to stay on our account because we will be sad if you stay, because we understand that life is brutal. For me, I've now discovered there was a person that existed, and then trauma was brought upon me in the Christian childhood household of my youth. And I will have all kinds of Christians tell me, oh, you're just using it as an excuse. But as a 3, 4, 5-year-old child, you have no choice but to experience the trauma and do as you're told. Believe that it's your fault that this trauma is occurring upon you. If you weren't a terrible person, if Adam hadn't eaten this piece of fruit, none of this would be happening to you. If you weren't effeminate, queer, if you didn't cry a lot, if you would stop being a bad young child, if you weren't so attractive, if you weren't this, that, or the other thing, these things wouldn't be happening to you. And so a part of me, named Paul, had to step up and say, I will be the all-American sports boy girl-chasing student body president that we have to be to satisfy the standards of the Christian American society around us that doesn't run like a girl, doesn't throw like a girl, doesn't cry like a girl. And still, the society around me said, nope, still not enough. You're still not good enough. You're still the child of our household upon whom the sins of our household are laid. And I was never given the choice of a time to mend or a time to rend, a time to cast stones or a time to gather. I only knew it was my job to maintain the sins of the household upon myself. Back to the new year, I'm going to use this as a moment to reevaluate where I am and what is it that I'm carrying that I'm not to carry anymore. And maybe I have had a moment to be angry, and now I can cast those stones of anger, maybe even some of them and not all of them. And now this anger has become a tether between me and a horrible person who traumatized me, and I'm going to start to release them to go deal with the purgatorial reckoning on their own. That's legitimate. And so the rest of us, as our leadership cares nothing for us, must take care of each other. And on this new year, 2025, I stand and say, I'm one of those people that Americans are being told to be afraid of and to despise and to marginalize. It's okay. You can try to use me as your scapegoat to absolve yourself of your own sins. But I'm at a time where that doesn't have an impact on me anymore. That old part of me is laying down and saying, I'm not in charge anymore. This unrealistic societal religious bondage that was put on me and was told that it was divine, when in fact it was entirely man-made. And what better way than the start of a new year in an ever-darkening world with darkening leaders who care little about the well-being of the people above their own enrichment, to be able to sit mindfully and say, what do I need in this season, and how do I connect to the divineness of the universe to pull something supernaturally down to myself? Blessings on you for your 2025 from Unconventional Pastor Paul, only out of love for you and for those of you who have been blinded by the indoctrination of man-created religion. Let's seek out a 21st century spirituality that loves ourselves and our neighbor, and let's seek it out together.